whisper of dead forest. Eric had always considered himself an experienced hiker. He had been to the Carpathians, climbed rocks in Georgia, and spent nights in the mountains without a tent. So a simple trip to the forest with friends seemed like child's play. But this trip turned into his worst nightmare. Whisper of Dead Forest, Chapter 1. The Disappearance. Laughter from friends, the smell of campfire smoke, the soft crackle of wood. The evening was perfect. Eric remembered lying in the tent, listening to their chatter as sleep slowly pulled him into warmth and silence. And then, nothing. He woke up in pitch darkness. No fire, no tent, no friends, only cold and an unfamiliar silence. The forest seemed different, thick, oppressive, somehow alive. "Guys," Eric's voice sounded muffled. No answer, only the rustling of the wind, like a distant whisper. Whisper of Dead Forest, Chapter 2. First Steps. He felt for his backpack, light, as if someone had taken everything useful out of it. Only a water flask and a knife remained. He found a flashlight in his jacket pocket, but it flickered, barely giving off light. There was no sign of a trail, just endless tree trunks. "Calm down, you just got lost," he repeated to himself, stepping forward. But the forest seemed to close in. Every sound made him turn around. It felt like someone was following him, but every time he looked back, there was only emptiness. Whisper of Dead Forest, Chapter 3. The Whisper. When the flashlight finally died, Eric thought it was over. But then he realized he could see in the dark, unnaturally clearly. He could distinguish every leaf on the ground, every crack in the bark, and dark figures between the trees. They stood motionless, tall, stretched, faceless. Eric froze, barely daring to breathe. And then he heard the whispers, barely audible, but directed straight at him. "Don't look. Run. Too late." He bolted, running, stumbling, falling, getting up and running again. The forest twisted, looped, and entangled him in a labyrinth of paths. Whisper of Dead Forest, Chapter 4. The Signs. He only stopped when his strength was completely gone. Leaning against a tree, he suddenly noticed a carved symbol on the bark, an eye. Right above it was a fresh scratch, as if someone had just dragged a knife across it. Branches rustled, and Eric froze. Just a few steps away stood one of the dark figures. It didn't move, just stared. Even though it had no eyes, he knew it was watching. Whisper of Dead Forest, Chapter 5. The Voices. The night dragged on endlessly. He walked, no longer caring where, and the farther he went, the louder the voices became. At first faint, like echoes of his own thoughts, then clear and distinct. "Eric, this way! Let's play!" He tried covering his ears, but the voices sounded inside his head. Sometimes he recognized among them the voices of his missing friends. They called to him, promised everything would be fine if he just reached the end of the trail. Whisper of Dead Forest, Chapter 6. the path. He came upon a huge fallen oak. Beyond it began a narrow trail that led into darkness. The voices grew louder, almost joyful. Go, you're almost there. Eric took a step. Ice shot down his spine when something cold touched his shoulder. He turned and saw a face. Human, familiar. The face of Dima, his best friend. Only the eyes were black voids. Where have you been? Dima asked, smiling. Come on, it's safe over there. Eric wanted to scream, but the sound caught in his throat. He realized if he took one more step, there would be no way back. Whisper of Dead Forest, Chapter 7, The Ending. Darkness closed in around him. The whispers turned into a roar. The forest was no longer just a forest. It lived, breathed, demanded. And Eric, trembling with terror, understood. He was no longer a guest here. He was part of this place. And at dawn, when the rescue team entered the forest, they found only an empty backpack. On the nearest tree was carved the symbol of an eye, and a fresh scratch, as if someone had tried to warn them or say goodbye.